Where the hell am I now? What's that? Modro? Is that a city? I should probably go and check it out. Nothing left to lose. Let's go. What the shit? There's a maniac chasing me with an axe! Ah! Oh, damn, I think I lost him. Who the hell was that guy? I bet he was one of those people who discriminate against zombies. You ate my whole family, so now I have to kill you. Grow up. Well, in that case... There. Now he shouldn't have any problems with me anymore. Anyway, you know how everyone is so confident that we have the perfect plan for a zombie apocalypse, how we all think we're Daryl Dixon or Rick Grimes, but we never consider the fact that we just might be the guy from World War Z and simply die in a car crash in the first hours of a zombie apocalypse. Are you or your friends in need of a lesson in acceptance and desperation? Oh boy, do I have the perfect game for you! Project Zomboid is a simple zombie survival game at first glance. I mean, this genre has been beaten to death with all of the subpar games we've seen throughout the years. But believe me when I say this, Project Zomboid is different, even better. How different, you ask? Why should you play a zombie survival game in 2024? And why would you want a game to shatter your confidence and blood pressure? Well guys, let's drink some bleach, watch some TV, and machete our way into this game. Now, before we step into the anxiety generator which is Project Zomboid, let us talk about its development. Project Zomboid was created by the Indie Stone. The story of this project is full of hardships, and I mean a lot of hardships. But the development has also some pretty wholesome moments. You're going to see what I mean, but for now, let us start at the beginning. The Indie Stone studio was created in 2009 by Chris, Lemmy Simpson, Andy, Binky Hodgetts, and Marina Mashed Potato Sue Chong. In 2011, they were joined by Nick Nickenstein Cohen. So yeah, they all have silly nicknames, but don't worry, I am done with the names. From here on out, I'm only going to be referring to them as the Indie Stone. So don't worry, you can still cook or poop while you're watching this video. So they started their journey by working on small projects such as mods for The Sims 3 and Civilization 5. However, they were also working on Pause, a fighting video game in which different animals would fight in an arena. However, the game was soon cancelled because of lack of funds. And this is going to be very familiar with the Indie Stone, so better get used to it. But now, why do I talk about some cancelled games here? Well, one of the characters from Pause, the raccoon named Spiffo, later became the mascot for Project Zomboid, and even having an in-game fast food chain restaurant named after it. At the time, they were also working on an educational game called Privates, and since this game was meant for education, they didn't gain any money from it. And this is where they entered a dark chapter in the history of their company, in which they were left with so little money that they couldn't pay rent.
Literally on bread and beans for weeks, and that was all we could afford. We had no money for rent, and it was just beans.
But do not underestimate the power of beans! Because this is when they started working on Project Zomboid. But how can they work on such an ambitious project without any money to feed themselves? Well, they created a crowdfunding page in order to enable them to work on Project Zomboid. They received quite the attention at first and managed to gather enough money to pay rent and to not have to eat beans anymore. However, both the PayPal and the Google checkout accounts in which they stored their donations were blocked. Permanent limitations. So they couldn't use the money anymore in those accounts. And this cut them off from 80% of their funds. Another major setback they had during the development of Project Zomboid is that when they released the pre-alpha version of the game, they got hacked and their game was pirated, making it so that people who never paid for the pre-alpha can download and update it for free. In order to combat this, the Indie Store removed the paid version of the game entirely for everyone and replaced it with a free demo. Now, all of those setbacks happened in 2011. That's 1 year. They lost all of their funding, managed to get some back from donations, and got blocked from using it because of PayPal. They got pirated and lost 2 months of work when they got robbed. Yeah, I wasn't joking when I said the development of this game was full of hardships. But here is where the Indie Stone becomes really impressive, because most teams they would simply abandon the game and move on. I mean, how many signs do you need? But those guys persevered during it all and stayed very transparent about it. So now let us get a little more into Project Zomboid. As I mentioned before, the first version of the game was the pre-alpha, which later became the free demo after the hacking. Now, skipping a little bit of versions here, the game was released on Steam in 2013, and since then, the game has received a lot of updates and overhauls. One of the controversial updates is when they removed NPCs from the game because it just became more and more buggy when adding content on top of it. But that shows that they don't simply want to add content. They want to do things right, stating that they do not wish to fall into a trap. As of making of this video, we are at build 41, but the game is far from done, since build 42 is set to be released sometime in the future, and build 42 is going to be a giant. They will add animals for you to hunt and look after, more occupations, cities on the map, and a lot of other stuff. But now here's the heartwarming part of this story. The game has gained a lot of popularity since 2022. I mean, look at this chart. It's a developer's wet dream. But I really find it heartwarming because of all the setbacks they had to endure and all of the challenges they were presented, and they persevered. They went through it all and they did it. And after 10 years, they finally get what they deserve. They get the popularity and notoriety that comes from their game because, I mean, it's a great game. For $20, I believe you will not be disappointed if you give it a try. But how much content is there now? And how did all of the Indie Stone determination paid off? Realism. This is the most important concept developers need to put into their game in order to make players immersed in it. But what is realism? Why does it bring immersion and how do you achieve it? Realism is what will make your game grounded, and this is what will make us relate to any work of fiction. The game can be about sci-fi or fantasy, but if you put realistic components in there, it will not matter because people will be able to connect with it. We may not understand how the Force or lightsabers work, but we all understand redemption and sacrifice, and this is how we get attached to characters such as Darth Vader. You can achieve realism by many different means. It may be through the graphics, which I believe is the weakest way because you can easily fall into the uncanny valley effect, which immediately destroys all immersion and reminds someone that they are in fact at home playing a video game. A much more powerful way to achieve it is through the writing. If your characters behave like humans and react to different events in realistic ways, like being sad when a close friend dies or stressed when put in danger, the player will be able to connect to those characters as he would to any other person, and this will immediately immerse and invest them into the narrative of the story. The third, and in my opinion, strongest way to achieve realism is through the gameplay mechanics. And this is where Project Zomboid comes in. This game is one of the most realistic games I have ever seen in my whole life. Even though the game is based around something as unreal as a zombie apocalypse, it is grounded because of its gameplay. An example would be if you break a window with your bare hands, you will get cut and you will have to take the shards of glass out of your wounds. Another example is characters who are smokers will feel anxious when they are not smoking for a while. Or I can even talk about the fact that when you are passing through bushes or trees, you have a chance to cut holes into your clothing or scratch yourself. And those are only 3 examples I had on the top of my mind. This realism is where the game shines the most because when putting realism into the game mechanics, you have to strike a real balance between making your game immersive and tedious. I mean, imagine if your character had to stop to pee every 2 hours. It would be just excruciating, right? Project Zomboid strikes this balance so well. It is realistic and immersive without feeling too tedious, and this is going to attach you to your character and make them feel like a normal human in a normal world. Now that we understand that this game is based on realism, let us look at what a typical game would look like. And for this, I will only talk about the solo experience. So, when you start a game, you will have to choose the city in which you start. As of the release of this video, the 4 starting cities are Modro, West Point, Rosewood, and Riverside. Now, choosing a city will only define your starting difficulty, but it is not that important where you spawn because once you get a car, you can always move to any of the other cities. And now here's something really fun in Project Zomboid. Once you customize your characters, you have to choose what profession they had before the apocalypse. Currently there are 22 occupations in Project Zomboid, which gives you different stats and XP boosts for different skills. Now you've chosen your occupation, you will also have to choose positive and negative traits for your character, and this spices this game so much. Each positive trait will cost you points, and each negative trait will give you points. Your goal is to balance them, so choose very carefully because those traits will impact your entire game. In my opinion, if you want free points, you should choose Smoker, because cigarettes are very easy to find and they relieve anxiety. High First is also some free points because you can literally find water everywhere. I mean, have you seen Earth? Now you have created your character and you started the game. You will start in a house or some place that is suitable to your occupation, like a police station if you're a police officer, or the fire station if you are, you will never guess, a fire officer. Now your goal is simple and hard at the same time. Just survive. And for this, you can build a base, farm, trap animals, be a nomad if you want, or you can simply sit in your house and watch TV while eating ice cream. Now I want to talk about Moodles, which is a very cool component of Project Zomboid, which adds a layer of realism on top of the game. The Moodles are those little icons that appear on the right side of your screen, showing how your character is feeling. There are a lot of different moodles that tell you if your character is panicked, hungry, thirsty, bored, sad, or even feeling nauseous or hot. And this is where you will need to manage your character because each of those moodles will impact your character. For example, if your character feels exerted, your damage will significantly drop. The first level of exhaustion means that you only deal half damage. And this will go to a whopping minus 95% damage on the last level of exhaustion. And that's only for exhaustion. Most of the times when you are fighting, you'll have 3 or 4 moodles that will light up and you'll have to manage them. I love this mechanic because the character feels like a true human being, and I really feel the need to take care of them. Now you've woken up in your house, you have managed your moodles, and you might even have a plan in your head. So you grab a weapon and you go out. And that's when you see them. But most importantly, that's when they see you. The combat in this game is so intense because one small tiny bit of mistake and you're dead! So yeah, unless you're playing with sprinters on, which I would not recommend, the zombies are slow and dumb, so when you are only fighting one of them, you don't even need a weapon. Simply push it on the ground and stomp its head. However, if you encounter more than 2 or 3 of them, you're really going to have to consider if it's worth it. And if you decide to fight them, you'll have to really take it slow and steady. Walk backwards while hitting them, but here's the thing. Zombies will take multiple hits to die, depending on your moodles, the weapon you're using, as well as your level in fitness, strength, and the level you have in the weapon type you are using. Yeah, there's a lot of things to consider when doing anything in this game. Now, I would like to talk a little bit more about the weapons you can use, starting with the melee ones. There are different categories of melee weapons you can use, such as axe, short blades, spears, short or long blunt, and long blades. All of these weapon types are different, and all of them have their own skill levels. So if you fight with a long blunt, you better keep fighting with a long blunt because you're going to level up your skill in long blunt, which means you make more damage, you swing faster, and you get less tired when swinging. But this is a zombie apocalypse and you will not always have the choice, which is fine. And now to tie back to the realism part of the game, I think you can see how realistic the different types of weapons are. For example, knives have only a small reach, but you have a chance to instantly kill a zombie by stabbing them in the skull. But whenever you do that, your knife can become stuck in their skull. So when the zombie falls with the knife, you have to go back to the corpse, pick up the knife before you can start stabbing again. More stress, please. Now, we cannot talk about zombies, and especially America, without talking about guns. Do not bother with guns. Let me give you a scenario that demonstrates this, okay? You see a zombie and you decide to fire your gun, but oops! You have no levels in aiming, so you missed him and you lost bullets. So you try one or two more shots and still nothing, and the zombie is still coming at you to give you a nice little hug. But now you need to reload, and once again, you don't have any levels in reloading, so it takes a lot more time, but you're smart and decide that you will back off while reloading. But then you turn around and you see that you are surrounded by a horde because, get this, guns make noise and zombies love noise. So you started by trying to kill one dumb zombie and ended up surrounded by a horde while the original zombie is still coming at you. You achieved nothing. So yeah, that's guns in Project Zomboid. One last thing I love about the combat in this game is that your character has a field of view. So when you are fighting some zombies in front of you, it is super common for another one to sneak up on you to give you a nice little chomp on your ass. So yeah, when you're fighting, you will be stressed and panicked since guns will call plenty of zombies on you and melee weapons require you to go in close and personal, making the fights last an eternity. All the while, you know that one small mistake will make you lose all of your progress. Now I hear you say, this game sounds tough. Well, let's talk about it. Now this game is not fooling around. Every time you pop the game, it will straight up tell you that this is how you died. And this is not a joke. This game is all about you trying your best to survive as long as possible in a world where everything tries to kill you, including your own character. The difficulty of this game comes in its realism. A zombie bite will kill you 100% of the time, even if you manage to escape and go home. So, if you have a bite, in the following 3 days you will gain a fever, anxiety, and symptoms reminding you that it's over. So, if you get bit, grab the nearest bottle of bleach and have yourself a nice little party. But how do you avoid this? Well, don't be overconfident and take things slowly. Let me give you an example of exactly that. There was this one time I had a character in Louisville. I had a great base, I cleared the military checkpoint, so I had plenty of weapons and armor. I felt overconfident, and I thought to myself, oh, I need some planks, let's go to the warehouse over there to grab them. I had already cleared out this warehouse the day before, so no problems, okay? I took my car, went to the warehouse, and by entering the garage in the warehouse, I just slightly bumped into the wall, and that's all it took for my car to completely break down. So I thought to myself, feeling overconfident once again, it's okay, I'm just going to go by foot, find another car, come back, take the planks, everything is cheeky-breeky, you know? But then I went out, encountered many cars, none of them had gas or keys, and it started raining. And the rain in this game really restricts your visibility. So it started to rain very heavily. I had no visibility. I was in the middle of a Louisville by foot with no car. I got surrounded by zombies and I started feeling tired and hungry. So, long story short, I got surrounded by zombies, got munched on, and died and lost my character. Well, this game reminds you that everything is trying to kill you. Even a simple task such as going to get planks for a rain collector can get you gruesomely killed. It adds a sense of tension. Even when you are experienced in this game, every time you leave the safety of your base to go on a scavenging run, you know that it may be your last. But that feeling goes both ways. You will feel stressed out when you're out, but when you get home from a scavenging run, or if you manage to defeat a small group of zombies, you will feel such a sense of relief and accomplishment. You really feel like you have beaten the odds. And other times you are going to die, and that's okay. But here is something that adds to the world building while making the difficulty more bearable. When your character dies, you can just create another character, spawn in the same world as your older one, go to your previous location, find your older character as a zombie, kill him and take all of your stuff back. You can even go back to your base, which is already fortified, so you don't really need to restart the whole game every time. Speaking of this mechanic, if by any chance some of the indie stone developers are watching right now, I think the mechanic of creating another character after your older one dies needs to change. Because when you create a new character, he will spawn in his house with no skills whatsoever, as if he did nothing while your older character was out there surviving and building bases. You started with your older character, you had the life and living channels to learn carpentry, and you also went to a school or a library, I don't know, and you disassembled the chairs and everything in order to grind that skill. Great! And now your character dies 30 days later. So you start with a new one, and all of the stuff you disassembled with your older character are still disassembled. So this makes it more difficult to go and grind carpentry, for example, and that's only for one skill. To remedy this, here is what I suggest. When we create a new character, give us the option to put points in different skills depending on the number of days that have passed since the beginning of the game. That way it makes creating a new character worth it without breaking the realism, since it's very likely that this new person has done something since the beginning of the apocalypse. But really, I have to say, the difficulty in this game creates a perfect atmosphere of tension. But you know what else creates an atmosphere of tension? That's right, music! Meet Zach Beaver. He is the guy who composed the music in Project Zomboid. In 2012, when he joined the team and created the music, he was only 17 years old, which is really impressive because the music of this game is really well done. It really builds a strong atmosphere in the game. I would like to start this discussion by showing you the soundtracks for the main menu and the loading screen. Those two soundtracks really immerse you into the game before you even start playing. Inside the game, the music will be divided into two categories, calm and combat. Let me start with the calm music. Now this music is going to play whenever you're just going around the map, scavenging or working on your base or whatever. And here is where I will praise the style of the music. Remember when I talked about the difficulty of this game and how everything can go wrong in an instant? You will always feel stressed in this game, and this tension is reflected very well in the calm music. Let me show you some bits. calm music is full of melancholy, which shows the sadness and desperation of the world you find yourself in. It's almost like it doesn't even matter what you do. The music also reminds you that everything can be lost in a matter of minutes because you can hear how the instruments are trying to gain in intensity but feel restrained. And this puts a sense of tension in you because it is calm, but you know that as the music can free itself and become more and more aggressive, so can zombies come at you at any moment to kill you. But when the inevitable happens, and you get into a fight with the undead, you'll hear this transition, almost like a box being opened, releasing the music free. And this is where the music will become more aggressive. Check this out. As you gain adrenaline and face your enemies, the music will get faster and more intense. You can feel like all of the instruments are unleashed, and so is the constant stress you have when you are alone. Now, this is my personal analysis for this music, and if you interpret it differently, I would be glad to discuss it with you in the comment section. But for me, the music does a very good job in accompanying your feelings while you play. When you are alone, always paranoid and afraid that a zombie will break a window into your house and finish you, the calm music will be there to add to those feelings. And when you decide to finally fight and be courageous, the music will transform into the combat variant, which is still stressful but with a lot more energy. It perfectly matches the mood in the game. Now, beside the music, there is something I really have to talk about in here. This is the jump scare sound you hear every time you suddenly discover a zombie close to you, by opening a door, or looking through a window, or even turning around and seeing a zombie right behind you. Your character will feel panicked when this happens, but with that sound, so will you. This sound is great because it connects you to your character. You become your character when this happens. He's panicked, you're panicked. Congratulations. Now, I have to say, there is one thing that bothers me with the music. There isn't a lot of variety, and when you play for more than 1 hour, you will start to hear the same 4 or 5 songs playing. I believe that the music is great, but having the same songs on repeat makes them less impactful. But hey, if my only criticism for the music is asking for more of it, I think you've done a pretty good job. Now, this game can be very hard to pick up because of the isometric style and the graphics. There is also the fact that this game brings in so much realism that it is very overwhelming at first, because you have to manage your time, the moodles, the different stats, food, drink, and on top of that, trying to avoid dying, which is the hardest part. And since this game is really realistic in its gameplay mechanics and difficulty, it might seem unfair at first. However, this realism will have you immersed in no time. You will get attached to your character and feel stressed every time you open up Project Zomboid. The fear that everything you have been building can be lost in a matter of minutes. But this fear goes both ways, because when you go on a run and manage to survive, all of this stress will transform into a sense of victory and you will feel proud of yourself for having pulled it off. And throughout all of those emotions, you know that the music will be there to accompany you in this journey. You will get so immersed in this game that you will forget to eat, sleep, and wash yourself in real life because you were too busy eating, sleeping, and washing yourself in the game. And you have to realize that the game is not finished yet. And as of build 41, there is so much content in this game. You can repair cars, build a base, go nomad, fish. and do whatever you want. You are completely free, and Build 42 is going to bring in a lot of more content. So go out there, grab this game out, and feel what it's like to be truly stressed out. Okay, so now that I have escaped, finally I feel like myself again. I wasn't used to having that much skin on me. I don't know how you guys do it. Anyway people, thank you for watching this video. Please like the video if you enjoyed it and subscribe if you want to keep updated on my insanity in video format. See you next time guys. Bye! Ah, finally a nice little forest. I can finally rest. Oh shit. There's something behind me, isn't there?